Hello, everyone. I want to thank you and welcome you to our community webinar. My name is Patty Camacho. I am with the Seattle Department of Neighborhoods, and I will be facilitating this discussion. Before we begin, next slide, please. Before we begin, I'd like to mention a few housekeeping items. Closed captioning is available within the meeting window. To select the closed captioning, please click the three-dot icon in the lower middle portion of your screen to initiate this function. This webinar is being recorded and will be shared. To receive a copy of the presentation, please contact us at COVID-19 Community Webinars at seattle.gov, or you may call 206-684-0464. The presentation will also be available on our blog, Front Porch. You can type in any questions you may have using the chat feature. Questions for a speaker will be asked directly after their presentation. We will also have an opportunity for more questions at the end during the Q&A portion. I will read out any questions I see in the chat, but ask that any answers be provided audibly during those times and not typed within the chat. There will also be opportunities for phone questions after every speaker. To ask a question, if you are dialing in from a phone, you may hit *6 on your phone to unmute, or you may use the raise your hand feature in the web portion to be called upon to ask a question. To unraise your hand or to lower your hand, you may hit *3. All the links that you will hear from our presenters today will be available through the presentation file transfer download you may have seen when you entered the webinar. If you don't see that file transfer page, you may access that document by going to your upper left corner and select the File tab, then select Transfer. One of those links on that document is a survey we have created for your feedback. We encourage you to help us improve these webinars by filling in the survey and letting us know your thoughts and ideas. We have begun incorporating neighborhood and community members and organizations to present information about work going on in our communities. This is an opportunity to highlight work related to COVID-19, as well as reopening and recovery that is being led by community. It is important to us to provide a platform to highlight these important conversations and efforts. If your organization would like an opportunity to be a future presenter, please email us at covid19communitywebinars@seattle.gov and we'll get back to you. Today we will be hearing from the Seattle Department of Transportation, the Seattle Department of Neighborhoods, the Seattle Department of Human Services, and in addition, we will be hearing from our community partners, Employment Security Department, and the Asian Counseling Referral Services. To begin our presentation, I'd like to introduce Daniel Sims, who is the Community Grant Supervisor for the Department of Neighborhoods. Daniel?
Great, thank you, Patty. Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel Sims, and I am the Community Grant Supervisor for the Department of Neighborhoods at the City of Seattle. I would like to start by thanking everyone for joining us today. This webinar is a collaboration with various departments within the City of Seattle, King County, and community partners. There are a couple of announcements I'd like to highlight from the Department of Neighborhoods. First is a reminder that our Neighborhood Matching Fund for Community Partnerships opened on July 15th. In 1988, the Neighborhood Matching Fund was created to provide matching dollars for neighborhood improvements, organizing, or projects developed and implemented by community members. We're going to hear a more in-depth presentation on the Neighborhood Matching Fund later in this webinar. The Department of Neighborhoods is also seeking proposals for the Duwamish River Opportunity Fund to help fund community-based projects that improve the quality of life for communities in the Duwamish River Valley. The total amount of funding available for this round is $250,000, and at this time, both grant seekers and community grant reviewers are asked to apply. The application deadline is September 21st at 5 p.m. For more information, visit our Department of Neighborhoods webpage or email us at drof@seattle.gov. I would also like to share a couple of updates from our Historic Preservation Division at DON. Seattle's Landmark Preservation Board will consider the nomination of Rainier Beach High School, located at 8815 Seward Park Avenue South, on Wednesday, September 16th at 3:30 p.m. The public is invited to participate in the virtual meeting and make comments regarding the nomination. Second, the public is invited to share its feedback regarding the development plans for Viewlands Elementary School, located at 10525 3rd Avenue Northwest in Seattle. Written comments will be accepted until September 2nd. Please visit the Historic Preservation under the Programs and Services tab on our Department of Neighborhoods webpage for more information on these two items. Finally, we wanted to mention that the City of Seattle, King County, and University of Washington Medicine are now offering free COVID-19 testing in 3 sites across Seattle. Testing is free regardless of immigration or citizenship status, but you must first register online or over the phone. You may register at seattle.gov/COVID-19 testing or call 206-684-2489. The 3 testing sites are, first, the Aurora site, which is located at 12040 Aurora Avenue North. It's open Monday through Saturday from 9:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., and it's a drive-up only site. The Soto site is located at 3820 6th Avenue South. It is also open Monday through Saturday from 9:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. and is a drive-up only site. The Rainier Beach site is located at 8815 Seward Park Avenue South. It's open Monday, closed Tuesday, and open again Wednesday through Saturday. The hours are 9:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., and this site is intended for walk-up testing. We'd like to thank you all for letting us share the information we have and hope that you will also share your questions, thoughts, and concerns with us. This is a reminder that you can type in questions on any of these topics using the chat feature. I'm going to pass it back to Patty now, and I would like to thank you all, and please stay healthy.
Thank you very much, Daniel, for those comments. Because this is the first time we are using this particular feature, I want to reiterate the file transfer document. It has a list of all of the appropriate links that you will hear today's presentation, as well as our survey. Again, to access that document, if you did not download the file transfer box, you can hit the file tab in your upper left corner, select tab, then select transfer. Any and all information that you would like is on that document. Okay. I would like to start the presentation now and invite Amy Nguyen and Casey Rogers from the Seattle Department of Transportation to talk about street cafes. Amy?
Thank you, Patty. And I just also want to thank DON for organizing this webinar and thank everybody who's on the line for taking a time out of your Friday afternoon to listen to us. So as Patty said, I'm with the Department of Transportation. Pretty early on, we knew that our businesses, particularly our small businesses, were and are being impacted in pretty devastating ways by COVID-19. And one of the exciting opportunities that we get to do in our work, so within the Department of Transportation, Casey and I actually work within street use. So you may have engaged or interacted with us as we function as a permitting regulatory arm. So everything from block party play street permits to public amenities, signs in the right of way. And today what we'll be focusing on is specifically presenting the temporary permits that we've launched for business recovery. Next slide, please. And I also just want to name that we are trying to provide as much customer service as possible. We know that the permitting process can be very intimidating. If you at all have any questions, want to understand, if you're a business owner, you know any business owners, and want some hands-on, if you want some personalized support, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at publicspace@seattle.gov. And we would love to schedule some time to walk you through some of these options in more detail. Also, we're working very closely with our partners in the Office of Economic Development, and they are also prepared to provide coaching opportunities. Next slide, please. And I'm going to pass it over to Casey. Casey, are you there? I can go ahead and describe this one. I think my colleague Casey might just be having a little bit of IT issues there. So right here, you're seeing a photograph of one of our temporary outdoor cafes. And so what we're excited about offering is we have permitted sidewalk cafes, but what we're looking at is how we can really streamline and make this process easier, given that businesses are limited in how much service that they can provide indoors. So what that looks like is opening up the curb space. So using the parking spaces in the frontage of a business for expanded outdoor seating, and also seating on the sidewalk. You'll note that we have to leave a pedestrian clear zone for people to be able to walk and move safely through the space. But this permit is actually, we have made this permit free. Traditionally, our sidewalk cafes can cost upwards of thousands of dollars. So this is a free temporary permit for 6 months. Next slide. I don't want to steal all of the glory here. Casey, are you there? Do you want to cover the street closures? All right, I'll just continue on. And so what you're going to see right here, this is actually a photograph that was taken quite recently. We recently permitted a street closure for Optimism Brewery on Capitol Hill. And what you'll see is not all businesses have parking spaces adjacent to their business or adequate sidewalk space to accommodate it. And we really want to be as flexible as possible to really help our small businesses and businesses recover during these tough economic times. So we're offering temporary street closures, and this is a really good example of that. So you'll notice we're working very closely with King County Public Health and also providing the resources of how to close your street appropriately as well. I also want to note that this is a free permit, and it also has the same 6-month temporary time frame around it. We're very flexible in working with people. So I highly recommend, we have a coaching opportunity. So Casey and I actually personally coaching any interested applicants to help you work through if a street closure opportunity is the best for you. Next slide. All right, fantastic. So we also know that businesses are not just restaurants and food service, and we really wanted to make sure that we could open up opportunities for our retailers and our vendors. So we're offering a temporary merchandise display for retailers to take over the front space, and they can also, I want to note, do it in the curb space as well. So if you're a retailer, clothing, art gallery, this is a free merchandise display permit. We also, traditionally, you're not allowed to do the point of sale in the right of way, but we've changed around our rules to be more flexible, just given the kind of unprecedented time. So the point of sale transaction happen outside. Temporary vending, we have expanded a lot of our vending opportunities to open up where you can do vending. Just to give a little bit of context on the genesis of this, we recognized several months ago that a high areas with high volume for our vendors, you'll note, are places like South Lake Union. And knowing that those vendors aren't having the business that they traditionally would have, we're now allowing vending within neighborhoods as well. So I highly recommend, if you are a current retailer or vendor and interested in our temporary options, we'd love to be able to support you. Next slide.
Hi, does it work now?
Oh, Casey,
Can you hear me?
Here. Yes,
Sorry,
you're
everybody.
now here.
I'm not sure what happened. I was talking and then I think my mic maybe stopped working. So I logged out and logged back in. Sorry for that. My name is Casey Rogers. I work with Amy. Thanks for presenting all that. I think we can help answer questions if people have them today.
Thank you, Amy and Casey, for that presentation. At this time, I'm going to open it up for any questions. If anyone has any questions they would like to ask regarding street cafes, you may do so at this time. You can hit *3 on your phone to unmute, or you can type in your question in the chat feature at this time, or you may simply just start speaking up. Before we do that, Casey, I would like to offer you an opportunity. Is there anything you would like to add to this before we officially open that up?
No worries. I think we can go to questions and answers.
Okay.
That's no
All right.
problem. Thank you, though.
Of course. So yeah, at this time, if there are any questions for Amy or Casey with SDOT on street cafes. Going once. Again, you can hit *3 on your phone to unmute, or you can unmute your microphones.
I can put my contact in the chat here too, so if people do have questions that you think of later, you can feel free to reach out to us. Oh, question popped up.
Okay. There, Mike D does have a question. I have noticed a number of citizens setting up selling points downtown. Is there a process?
Mike, could you clarify what you mean by selling points? I'm not sure if I understand that exactly. Like vending or? Okay, if you're thinking of vending, we do, food trucks and food carts still are out there operating, and it is one of the temporary permit options, so maybe that's what you're seeing. And if you're interested in a permit for that, you would start on our website, miscellaneous stuff. Our vending permits only allow the vending of food and flowers. So if it's merchandise, so if it's outside of that, that wouldn't be something that could be done under this permit.
I do also want to note, Mike, for context, there is oftentimes you'll see some vending within the streets that are protected under First Amendment rights. So free speech vending is unpermitted by SDOT, but is allowed.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you for that. Thank you for your question, Mike. Are there any other questions on street cafes for Amy or Casey at this time? I'll give it just a couple more seconds. Okay, great. Amy, Casey, thank you so very much for your presentation.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to move along in our presentation now and invite Miss Aylin Ruth and the Neighborhood Matching Fund. Aileen, are you there?
Hi, this is Elaine. Can you hear me?
Yes, Miss Aylin, go ahead.
Well, again, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us. I'm happy to talk a little bit about the Neighborhood Matching Fund. I've been with the city 45 years, the last 30 with the Matching Fund, and it is my favorite job. Next slide, please. What you see here are a few pictures of Neighborhood Matching Fund projects. The reason the troll is in the middle is because it is by far the most popular Matching Fund project ever. And that is significant to me because when it came to us, I said, we're not going to fund a troll. Why would we fund a troll? But the troll, like all of the other projects you see represented there, had the same things that we consider our core values: community engagement, volunteerism, and community involvement. So that's why it's a successful project. I've traveled all over the world, and if I have anything that has a Matching Fund logo on it, in some language, people say to me, troll. Next question, excuse me, next slide, please. The most common question we get is, what do we fund? And what I say to people is, we fund your imagination, provided that it has a community benefit, it's free and open to the public, and it involves community members. They also ask, who can apply? We are a very different kind of funder. We fund neighborhood groups, whether they're organized or an ad hoc group, maybe that comes together just to do the project. We fund well-known community organizations, informal groups, business groups. But all of the groups have to be open and inclusive, meaning anyone can join and make meaningful decisions. Next slide, please. The Community Partnership Fund is one half of the Neighborhood Matching Fund. You can get an award from between $5,000 up to $50,000. We have a hard deadline, and I do say a hard deadline. It's September 15th at 5:00 p.m. We have an online system for applying, so if you apply at 5:10, you'll be locked out. You won't be able to show us all that hard work. So make sure that you do not miss that deadline. You'll get a decision within 6 weeks of September 15th, and all of the projects must be contracted. You have to be ready to go, and they need to be contracted by the end of the year, by December 31st. Next slide, please. What you're looking at now is what we call project readiness. Are you ready to proceed? What are the things that you have to have lined up, ready to accomplish that project once we say yes? And we're always in the business of saying yes. Sometimes people say I'm too optimistic, but we believe if we spend time with you, if we tell you the things that you need to do and help you, that you can be successful. That is the difference between public funders and private funders. Public funders, we have to tell you, there are no secrets to success. We're happy to share that with you. You're looking at now the application worksheet. One of the first things you have to have is property owner permission. If it's a physical project, even if it's at a park down the street from you and you know that park should be improved, you need to contact the property owner, whether it's the Parks Department, whether it's in the right of way and it's SDOT, or it's a school district project. You need to have that owner's permission at the time of application. They should not learn about your project when we send them the application for their review. One of the things that project managers can do is help you find that appropriate property owner, make those connections, and make sure they're on board with what you want to do and the way you want to do it. When people ask me why property owner permission is so important, I often say to them, if you were going to paint your house, even if you were going to paint your house, if the neighbor next door wanted it to be white, and you wanted it to be another color, that's what property owner permission is. Your leadership committee, we ask community groups to identify 7 to 10 people who will take ownership of the project and move it forward. These are not the people who are going to accomplish all of the project goals and specific tasks, but they are going to take responsibility for the project. One person will sign the contract with the city of Seattle and kind of move the project along. We found that 7 to 10 members is an ideal number. It's not too small and it's not too big. We want these projects to be fun and to be engaging. So a neighborhood matching fund project is not an I project. It shouldn't be so much work that you never want to come to the matching fund again. So that leadership team should be Seattle based, meaning that the majority of the people live and or work in Seattle. We didn't have to be so specific about that until we went online with our application process, and we would get applications from the Yukon, foreign countries. They had ideas about what they wanted to do in Seattle. And while we laughed at and sometimes winked at their suggestions, it has always been the goal of the matching fund that people who live and or work in the city of Seattle should take a leadership position in moving a project forward, especially since they have to live with the consequences. Your work plan. How are you going to get this accomplished? What are the 10 to 15 steps that you need to take to make the project a success? I'll give you an example. Sometimes people would come to us and say they wanted $100,000 to build a playground. And I'd look at their work plan and they'd say, buy the equipment, install the equipment. We know that that's not what happens. There's planning processes. Even if you're doing installation, there's site prep, there's organizing of volunteers. There are a lot of things that go into making a successful matching fund project. And we want you to demonstrate to us that you know what those things are. And since you took the time on a sunny Friday afternoon to listen to this presentation, I'll tell you a secret. The last step should always be project closeout with the Department of Neighborhoods. If you put that in your work plan, we'll know that you would listen to at least one piece of advice. So that'll be a feather in your cap. Your budget should include the dollars that you want from the Department of Neighborhoods and your match. It's called the Neighborhood Matching Fund for a reason. We could not have accomplished any of these community projects without the volunteers, the cash, the donated resources from the community. That's what makes the partnership with the Department of Neighborhoods and the city so successful with the matching fund. So we ask that you identify those things that you need to make the project happen. If you need money, then the matching fund will pay for it. If you can get it donated, better yet, you can use that as your match. Next slide, please. Project manager assistance. This is a very, very unique feature of the Neighborhood Matching Fund. I have friends who work for King County, and someone called me accidentally and asked about a project or a funding opportunity, and I knew it wasn't ours. So I called them and I said, can you call this person back and help them? And they said, we don't talk to applicants once our fund goes live. And I said, excuse me? She said, we don't do that. Well, what we do as Neighborhood Matching Fund project managers is we put on workshops. We've had 2 virtual workshops already, and our last virtual workshop, which will be more involved in this presentation here, is tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. So you still have a chance to get a more thorough insight on the matching fund. We will also assist you in our web grants portal. We have an online application system, so anything that you do with your project will be online. When you're awarded, again, I say when, I'm an optimist, you will we'll communicate with you online. When you have claims to be paid, all of that will be online. So we have a staff person who is an expert in helping you with that process, and as project managers, we can also help you as well. We provide liaisons with you between other city departments. We have people who specifically work on matching fund projects in parks, in SDOT, in city life. And so they know what you need to do to be successful, and they can help you as well. One thing we do that a lot of people don't do is if you give us your draft application at least 2 weeks before the due date, let me say that again, at least 2 weeks before the due date, we will review it as if we were going to review it for funding, and we will get back to you with very specific critique on the things that you should do to make it more successful. The reason we ask you to give it to us 2 weeks in advance isn't because we won't read it a week in advance or 4 days in advance, but it doesn't make any difference if we give you advice and you don't have the time to implement it. So the quality of our advice is always more helpful to you if you give it to us early. The last chance Monday, the due date for your application is Tuesday, but this year we instituted what we call last chance Monday. In prior years, your application was due on a Monday. People would spend the weekend working on it, but then they had to go to work on Monday and they couldn't always reach us. So we have decided that we'll be available to the community from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Monday. You'll be able to talk with a project manager to get any last minute assistance and advice. The due date is still on Tuesday, but it just gives you one more opportunity to connect and to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward for your project. Next slide, please. Oh, is that? I knew there was one more. This is the slide that lists all of our matching fund project managers. I'm on there, Lynn Ruth. Juan Martinez is a project manager. He comes to us with a lot of experience in the public sector, working in SHA, working for a U.S. Senator. Yoon Petrie has been with the department quite a few years. She was once a district coordinator, so she knows how to connect people in different communities. As I said, I've been with the city for 45 years. The first 10 years I was at the city council, and I kind of know how things work. My claim to fame is I've made every mistake. I've been here long enough to have made every mistake, so I know how to fix some things. Karen Sealander comes to us from the Office of Economic Development. She's very well versed in business, contracting, and those sort of things. Lisa Yomoto prior experience in PPATCH, you work for SHA. And I think the one thing that we all have in common is that we love this work. We love community and we love these projects. We also have a contract specialist in Sharon Starr, who's been with the department in a variety of capacities, but she can help you in terms of contracting and answer questions about access to web grants. And our administrative staff person is Esprit. She is a webmaster genius and a grants genius, and can help you if you have trouble with our portal in terms of accessing the matching fund. And I think you already heard a little bit from Daniel Sims, who's our program supervisor. So we're excited to help you in this process. We love the community aspect of doing projects, as do I would say everybody in the Department of Neighborhoods. You would not work for neighborhoods, especially under this director, if you didn't love community. So I think that's the end of my presentation. I think that's the last slide. If you take note, if you have a project and you want to be assigned a project manager, we ask that you go through either the email or the telephone number so that we can keep track of the requests that we have and make sure that we assign a project manager to follow up with you. I think we can open it up for questions if there are any.
Thank you, Ellen. Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. At this time, I'm going to open it up for any questions for Ellen and the Neighborhood Matching Fund. You can hit *3 to unmute your phones. You can unmute your microphones. You can type your questions in the chat feature as well. We do have one question, Miss Ellen. How
Yes.
much is the match? 100%? And
No.
in addition, can you repeat the information for the next workshop?
Sure. The final workshop is tomorrow morning from 10 until 11:30. And if you contact Esprit, I believe at that number 206-233-0093, we can get you added and send you materials about our program, which will make it easier for you to follow along. And in terms of the match is 1/2 to 1. If you ask us for $10,000, your minimum match is $5,000. And match can be made up in any combination of 4 categories: cash, volunteer labor, which is valued at $30 an hour, donated materials like Starbucks giving you coffee or Lowe's giving you tools, and then professional services. If you need a carpenter or plumber or some landscape architect and they're a volunteer, their time is valued at up to $100 an hour. Those are the variety of ways that you can make up match. And I will tell you, since you spent your Friday afternoon with us, volunteerism is one of our core values. So it would be impossible to receive a matching fund award if you did not have volunteers. And you can use the time of your leadership team as the basis of your volunteers. But we're looking for you to involve other community members as well.
Thank you, Ellen. Again, that number is 206-233-0093 for the Neighborhood Matching Fund. You can also email nmfund@seattle.gov. You might even get a chance to work with Ellen herself. What more inspiration do you need?
Thank you.
There's
Wait,
another
one more
question on that.
Yes, go
There's
ahead.
another question in the chat bar, and that's how much time does the project have to be completed?
You have 1 year from the date of contracting. So for example, you apply for these projects, you apply in September, you will be contracted before the end of the year. So the day you contract might be in December. So you'd have from December of, I can't believe I'm saying this, 2020 to December of 2021 to complete your project. And occasionally we extend projects if things happen that are outside the control of the community. For example, permitting takes longer. You know, we had a time when there was so much construction going on in Seattle, just basic permitting took longer. So we never hold the community accountable for something that they cannot control. So basically you have a year, up to a year. You don't have to take it, but you have up to a year. And if the project is moving on and you are making progress toward completion, if you need another couple months, then you can make that request. And generally it's granted.
I have a question for you. If because we're in the middle of a pandemic, are there any more or any different kind of rules that you're asking applicants to abide by? Like you're not going to support community gatherings or any kind of event where large groups are encouraged? Is that something that you are requiring for this grant to be approved?
That's a good question. We were limited to the number of slides. Normally, this is a 45-minute presentation, but we were limited to the number of slides. But yes, we are asking people to have, because we can't predict the future. We don't know where we're going to be in January, because these projects we approve now will start in January. We're asking people to follow whatever guidelines that the health department requires. And so you should have a backup plan. We had projects that were already underway that had to switch to virtual because this pandemic happened. So it's safe to say, unless something drastically changes, we wouldn't be supporting projects where you had to have a gathering of 100 people or 50 people or 60 people. If you could not do it in smaller groups, like we've had projects where people were doing work in a pea patch or on school property, and instead of having one big work party, they had small work parties of 5 or less. So that's one of the things that as project managers, we're working with you to develop your project to see if there is a virtual backup or another way to do it, because I don't think any of us can predict where we'll be in January, because as you see, we move to different phases and then we step back. But whatever the guidelines are, we would definitely enforce what those guidelines are. We are part of the city of Seattle and under the direction of the governor. We would ask that you do the same. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. We do have one more question from Cindy Barker. Is insurance still required? Oh, Cindy, did you want to say it out loud?
Yeah, I have a hard time typing on my little phone.
Yeah, no worries. Please go ahead.
Is insurance still required for the life of the contract, and is that required to be carried by the community organization? We've been asking for that to get removed for some time.
It probably won't be removed. The city, we require the insurance, and this is why. It used to be that we only had insurance for physical projects for somebody to get hurt, but we are a more litigious society, and what people have started to do is if they don't like a project, if they don't like the sound of the basketball hoop, they will sue the applicant group and name people individually. They'll go after people's homeowners insurance. So the only way the city can protect you is if we have insurance for the entire project. And we ask, can I just finish? And then we will even pay for it, because in reality, people never sue the community group. Who they really are suing is the deep pocket, the city of Seattle. So we ask that you have insurance that covers the entirety of the project. You can, it's commercial general liability insurance. It's not event insurance, and you can put the cost of the insurance in your matching fund budget. It's not likely that it won't be removed in 2021. I can tell you that for sure. But it is something that has become important to us and important to community groups.
Yes, and so that, since you did not mention the insurance cost in your presentation, that's kind of always the problem. People do their grants and they didn't know they had to include that $300 and more amounts. Please incorporate that into your messaging about the basic application elements that, you laid out a lot of good stuff, but that one always gets left in the fine print and people find that out too late.
Well, let me just say this. As I said before, I was asked to do in 15 minutes what we normally do in 45. Insurance and fiscal sponsorship is something that we cover extensively. We have paperwork that we send out to people. Insurance is something that never should get left at the end. That's one of the main things that we talk to people about. We won't even accept your application unless it's in there. So I'm glad that you brought it up, but please know the city, we're insuring ourselves. We're more concerned about the insurance than you are, because as I said before, people are not going after the community group. They're not going after the ad hoc group. They really are coming after the city of Seattle, but we will make sure that we are even more intentional about covering that. And that's why we pay for it, because we know it is a cost, and it's usually more than 300. 300 is a small amount, but we also require that you have a fiscal sponsor, because while I'm on the subject, the city does not pay you directly. We don't pay your vendors directly. We don't pay the photographer directly, because we don't want them to think they are an employee of the city. But most 501c3 organizations, a lot of them have the insurance, and then we just pay the difference that it costs to add the applicant group and the city as an additional insured. But we'll make sure to hit that insurance piece even harder. Thank you for your comment.
Thank you for those questions. Are there any other questions for the Neighborhood Matching Fund? I encourage you also to use that email and that phone number for any specific questions you might have as well. But seeing none and hearing none, I think we're going to continue. Thank you very much, Ellen, and the Neighborhood Matching Fund.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you. I'd like to continue our presentation and invite Irene Stewart, Communications Manager for Aging and Disability Services. Irene?
Hey, thanks, Patty. Great to see everyone. It was fun for me to follow Lynn too. I reached over and I grabbed my vintage troll t-shirt. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's Neighborhood Matching Fund, and it's at least, I don't know, 20 years old. So I love it. Good afternoon to everyone. I am Irene Stewart. I'm Communications Manager for Aging and Disability Services. We're a division of the Seattle Human Services Department. We work throughout King County to promote the aging network that serves older people, that serves adults with disabilities, caregivers, and families. I'm speaking today on behalf of Age Friendly Seattle, and that's a citywide initiative to make Seattle a great place to grow up and grow old. Let's see, let's move on to the slide. Let's move up 2 slides to the blue one. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to talk about virtual events that we host and or promote to help older people stay connected to the world around them. We do this because social isolation is such a significant problem. It's a problem in Seattle, throughout our country. It's a problem in many parts of the world. AARP research tells us that even before COVID, that more than 8 million older people in the United States were negatively affected by isolation. And with the COVID quarantine, that number is undoubtedly higher. People feel isolated for a lot of reasons, often due to poor physical and mental health, and due to major life events such as loss and retirement. But it can also be for lack of accessible and affordable transportation options, conditions such as untreated hearing loss, caregiver status, poverty, and definitely marginalization due to ageism, race and ethnicity, and LGBTQ status, and all of the other communities that have experienced the various isms. Numerous studies have shown that prolonged isolation affects health and mortality equivalent to smoking 15 to 20 cigarettes a day. And that's not a new study. That's been out for half a dozen years, and more studies have backed that up. It's pretty well proven that people who have experienced loneliness and depression that because of social isolation end up with a shorter lifespan. And I want to add that this is not about people who are introverted. It's not about people who prefer solitude for whatever reason. These studies are focused on people who have experienced loneliness and depression, clinical experience due to social isolation, and it's significant. It's also not limited to older people. There was one nationwide study in 2019 that showed that throughout the United States, all people age 18 and up, nearly half say that sometimes or always they feel alone or left out. Aging network advocates have known for a long time that there are only 2 ways to increase longevity: staying physically active and maintaining social connections. during COVID, Age Friendly Seattle and Aging and Disability Services and the Seattle Human Services Department have promoted connections in a number of ways, including telephone services such as the AARP Friendly Voices program that schedules phone calls just for people, older people in this case, who just need to hear a friendly voice now and then. There's also the statewide Washington Listens service. It's a non-crisis line for anyone in Washington State, any age, who's just feeling down due to COVID. We also have ongoing our Community Living Connections service. It's our information and referral service that we fund. So there's no cost for consultations. It's the front door, what we call our front door, or our front desk to local aging and disability services. But we've also seen that virtual events and video recordings have become a really powerful tool for reaching our service population during COVID and to share information and help people connect. Next slide, please. I'm guessing that many of you have heard about Age Friendly Seattle's coffee hours. It's a long-standing tradition. It actually dates back before Age Friendly Seattle, maybe a dozen years. But they always happen on the third Thursday of each month, except December. And they feature elected officials, directors, and program managers. Last year and early this year during the winter, we were already exploring how to present effectively to a growing audience. We needed more space, and Seattle Public Library came on board as a partner. They offered to co-host and provide meeting space, which we don't actually need right now because we're all virtual, but they have continued to promote these events and serve as a co-sponsor. And then also with increasing frequency, we were receiving requests for language accommodations. And I want to do a shout out to Department of Neighborhoods and the simultaneous interpretation equipment that you made available to us for our coffee hours was truly remarkable. There were times when we had interpreters speaking to 3 or 4 language groups at a time in a small, tight room, and that equipment made all the difference in the world. But now we hold our Civic coffee hours virtually. We're using Microsoft Teams webinars, and that provides not only closed captioning in English, but closed captioning in 6 other languages, and hopefully that will expand over time. We think that's pretty cool. Our next coffee hour is on August 20th. That's just next Thursday, and that will feature Seattle Public Library with Chief Librarian Marcellus Turner. And then Mayor Durkin is tentatively scheduled to present at the September 17th coffee hour, and I believe we've got SDOT Director Sam Zimbabwe scheduled later this fall. So that's a monthly opportunity for directors and managers to have an hour-long program dedicated to their issues. Recently, we've had speakers from Seattle IT, from Seattle Department of Human Resources, from Human Services Department, from Public Health. It's been really great. And just one more word about this format. Teams does not require any registration. You just click and you go right into it. And again, that closed captioning is really good for people who may not be fluent in English, but definitely good for people who are hard of hearing too. And we always use the same event link. We just change where it lands in the background, but it's bit.ly, bit.ly/agefriendlylive for every event that we do. And then we put video recordings of all of our coffee hours, all of our virtual events. We put them on the Aging King County YouTube channel. And it's Aging King County because Aging and Disability Services, again, as I mentioned, has county-wide responsibility, and Age Friendly Seattle has playlists on our channel. So next slide, please. Close to Home is a new series that was developed specifically to reach older people who are staying home to stay safe during the pandemic. Our most recent Close to Home program was yesterday, and it featured the Seattle Office of Emergency Management. It's on the first, second, and fourth Thursday of every month, and that's because the coffee hour is on the third Thursday. So basically, unless it's a fifth Thursday, and that does occur now and then, if it's a Thursday at 10:30 a.m., you can go to that bit.ly link and log on and watch a program. These are a little bit different. They're a little more casual. They're usually 45 minutes in length. Sometimes they go a little longer. And they have featured both like city, county, state voices, but also community voices. And for everyone on this call, I just say, here's a wonderful opportunity for you to put information about your work, your programs and services out. If you would like to be included in one of the Close to Home programs or in a coffee hour, but either way, the Age Friendly Seattle coordinator, Lenny Orlov, coordinates and hosts the programs, and you can contact him directly to inquire about available dates. His email is Lenny, Lenny, .orlov, ORLOV, @seattle.gov. Next slide, please. So finally, I'd like to tell you about AgeWise TV. We actually had very little to do with setting this up, but we've had quite a bit to do with promoting it. AgeWise TV is on the Seattle channel. It's a series of 10 one-hour programs designed for older people who would normally participate in senior center activities. And this came into being when the staff at the Pike Market Senior Center said, we need a way to reach people who don't have a computer. And so that they went to, naturally, to TV, because so many people will have a TV even if they don't have a computer. And then they reached out to a professional videographer they had worked with previously named Kay Ray. She in turn contacted another videographer and senior centers throughout Seattle and pulled content together. So Kay and the other videographer, her name escapes me right now, but they curated material for each of the 10 AgeWise TV shows and then presented those to the Seattle channel for broadcast. And I believe 8 of the 10 have already aired. And once they have aired, then they are also available on the Seattle channel website. And that's seattlechannel.org/feature-shows/AgeWise TV. It also comes up really fast if you just do a Google search on AgeWise TV Seattle. The most recent one this week, the most recent episode, has a talk about how sleep affects creativity. It's got several short films, including one about a female Bronco or Bronca, I'm not sure what the right word is, writers in Montana. It's got an art demonstration and an explanation about how to do torn paper collage. And a lot of the series have also had yoga, and there's really something for everyone. So next slide, please. I appreciate the opportunity to have shared this information, and I hope that you will, each of you will share the information with your colleagues, with your family members, friends, and neighbors of any age. I hope if you have valuable information to share with older people that you will contact Lenny Orlov at Age Friendly Seattle about participating in an upcoming virtual event. Another email address that we use is just agefriendly@seattle.gov, pretty easy to remember. And then in general, there are a lot of ways to connect with Age Friendly Seattle and Aging and Disability Services. I want to remind you about Community Living Connections, and I've spoken about this in other DON webinars, but again, as our front door to services, if you need services related to age or disability, the number is 844-348-5464, or just go to communitylivingconnections.org online. You can email me at irene.stewart@seattle.gov or use our general inbox, aginginfo@seattle.gov. You can subscribe to our advisory council's monthly e-zine, which is called AgeWise King County, and you'll find that online at agewisekingcounty.org. You can follow us on social media. Between Aging King County and Age Friendly Seattle, we have a presence on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, Pinterest, and I may be forgetting one or two. So there are a lot of ways to connect with us, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Irene, for that presentation. Lot of useful information for our aging population and those that care for them. At this time, again, I want to open it up for any questions for Irene. You can hit unmute your microphones. You can call them out. You can type them into the chat feature as well. Are there any questions for Irene Stewart? You can press *6 to unmute your phones as well. Sorry about that. Any questions? Seeing none and hearing none. Irene, I want to thank you for participating today. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That concludes our department presentations. Now is my favorite part, our community presentations. We invite community partners to talk about things happening and going on in our community all over the city. And I would now like to introduce Employment Security Department, Scott Michael. Scott, are you there?
I am here. Thank you very
Hi.
much.
Welcome. You have the floor.
All right, wonderful. Well, thank you for the opportunity to come and talk to you. Just giving you a general update on where things are going with unemployment benefits during this point in time. And it is a point in time that will probably was different than last week and will be different next week. It just things are just moving that fast around here. So next slide, please. Okay, that's nice. Next slide. Okay, so so for folks on who are still looking for information on how to apply for unemployment benefits, you haven't applied yet, you're waiting. This is our website, esd.wa.gov/unemployment. Go here and be sure to visit this website first and scroll it carefully before you go through here. It's got the lists of documents you're going to need to have on hand when you do apply. There's going to be various checklists to see if you're eligible for benefits, whether that's a regular state unemployment claim or whether that's one of the federal unemployment benefits that have been expanded. And it's also going to give you various guides for how to apply online. We do encourage everyone to apply online. That has had the most success for folks having fewer issues and getting those issues resolved faster. All right, next slide. Oh, okay. Oh, you incorporate. All right. So that's what I just read to you. So yeah, that's the website. So go do that. And then next slide. All right. And then for folks who have heard and seen in the news that there have been delays in folks receiving unemployment benefits, yes, that has been true for chunks of the population. We had a lot of people coming into our agency filing unemployment benefits, a lot of them using our services for the first time ever. And so we just needed to work on clearing the backlogs through the initial rush and also continue to expand capacity, because when the pandemic started, we were staffed for an unemployment level that's basically was serving the best employment economy consistently for years. And then seemingly overnight, that spiked to levels that we have not seen ever. And it did so very quickly. So we do regret that we just weren't prepared for that. And so over the past 3 months, we have expanded. We have hired over 1,000 more people to help clear, serve unemployment claims. And at this point, we have paid more than $9.24 billion in unemployment benefits to nearly 1 million different people. 70% of the claimants who have filed are paid within 1 week. And then at this point, the average number of days individuals are having to wait for their first benefit.
I apologize. We seem to have lost Scott. It looks like he has some technical issues on his end. I apologize for that. I think what we'll do is continue on with our next community partner. We will come back to Scott if he's able to log back on. I will say to contact him, or the information from his presentation is also included on that document, the file transfer document that we have shared with you. You can also call us with any information on his or any of the presentations happening today. I'm going to go on ahead and invite our next presenter. If we can go into the next slide. Next slide. For the Asian Counseling and Referral Service. Thank you. At this time, I'm going to invite Victor.
Good
Victor, are you
afternoon,
there?
everyone. Yeah, I'm here.
Hi. Yes, Victor Liu with the Asian Counseling and Referral Services. Victor, go ahead.
Sounds great. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. So again, this is Victor Liu. For this work context, I use he, him, his pronouns. So I'm the Director of Practice Innovation from Asian Counseling and Referral Service, short for ACRS. So ACRS, for those of you that are familiar, we are founded in 1973. We're a multi-social service organization that provides services that address social determinants of health, including assisting individuals with food stamps, energy utility assistance, behavioral health care, and primary care. There are about 700 there are about 700 volunteers a year, over about 300 employees at this time. And collectively in 2019, we serve over 27,000 individuals. The mission of our organization is to promote social justice and the well-being and empowerment of the Asian American Pacific Islander individuals. In 2008, we moved to Central Seattle Martin Luther King Jr. area, specifically to make our services more accessible to the community members. And since moving to that new location, we are also serving in, different individuals. And oftentimes, members may have this impression that ACRS can only serve Asians, immigrants, and refugees. And I always take opportunities as such to reiterate that we can serve all individuals who want to access services from our agency. And we also have different locations. As I mentioned, the main office is in Central Seattle. We also have a branch office in Bellevue and 2 other branches in Kent. And in fact, during the pandemic, we just opened our new facility in Kent about a month ago. And as I mentioned, with all our employees that we have, collectively, we speak over 45 languages and dialects. Next slide, please. So specifically for this presentation, I just want to share with you what our organization is doing during COVID-19 and what kind of services that we are providing. I already mentioned that we provide essential services to individuals. So during this time, we understand that there are more vulnerable individuals that are facing isolation, the need for social distancing, physical distancing, increased unemployment issue, or food insecurity. So, and for those of us who are also working in the healthcare and behavioral health system, we also recognize that there's an increased need for mental health and physical health needs, as well as substance use disorder. And we try to be really creative during this time by providing services to our clients who may not be able to access facility at our main office or branches. And we also have a food bank in International District. However, the food bank location is not ideal to provide services due to the lack of square feet to allow physical distancing. So what we ended up doing is that we convert our gym into our food bank. We have a gym which is about a half size basketball ball courts, and use that gym to really transition it into a food bank. And we begin to provide food bank services at the gym at the main office. Also, we started delivering grocery bags and meals to seniors who are not able to access services due to the COVID issue. And some other services that we partner with the city or other government entities and foundation includes offering rental and cash assistance. And we're providing outreach via phone and office-based essential services. And we also include multilingual support to assist our community members who may have limited or no English proficiency or digital and literacy to apply for unemployment insurance benefits and health navigation. As we know that during this pandemic, there are more and more individuals for the very first time are eligible for Medicaid or eligible for food stamp, and they are not familiar on how to navigate the healthcare, the system to apply for such services. So we increase our multilingual support. And the other thing that we are doing is we also increase our access for telehealth services by providing counseling or essential services through using technology. However, we recognize that low or no income individual may not have access to internet or cell phone or smartphone or computers, desktop, laptop. So we also, whenever we can, we provide those equipment for the clients who need them. So we can provide telehealth services to them. Beyond that, as an organization, our mission is really to work with our partners and uplift one another. So we will share the resources that we have with smaller organizations, specifically to uplift invisible community who may have lacked resources due to infrastructure and capacity. Some concrete things that we had done is that we partnered with King County Public Health to do COVID-19 scan testing. It is an in-home testing kit. And during this time, we also understand that the Pacific Islander individuals are the ones that lack access and test positive for COVID-19. And during this period, we have already provided scan testing to nearly 100 Pacific Islanders and support. And we have staff that really help to support this Pacific Islander community who are really impacted. Next slide, please. So the other services that we also provide is we are also conducting our citizenship and nationalization services virtually in partnership with Korean Community Studies Center. And for the very first time, we are conducting the citizenship and nationalization application clinic completely virtually, electronically. We also pivoted a ready to work program to assist immigrants, refugees, or individuals who lack access for employment and digital literacy classes in online format as well for the spring and summer quarter, which is still happening at this time. And our instructors are trained to use Zoom and other platforms that are accessible to the student so they can access the regular, the scheduled classes. And some of the things that our employment and citizenship case manager had done is always meet with clients remotely when technology is going to be an issue. If not, then we will use the platform that I have referenced earlier through telehealth. Next slide, please. So that's all I have. I neglect to mention that I'm from Singapore, so I tend to speak very fast. And that's my contact information right there. And you're welcome to call me or email me if there are any services that ACRS can offer to the community members.
Victor, thank you very much for your presentation. I know we have a big Asian and Pacific Islander population in the city, so this is very good information to know and to have. At this time, do we have any questions for the Asian Counseling Referral Service, ACRS? For Victor, you can hit *6 to unmute. You may unmute your microphones at this time, and you can also type your questions into the chat feature. Do we have any questions for Victor?
Hi, Victor. This is Wang Wang. I was wondering if you could repeat some of that information for the testing for the Pacific Islander, South Pacific Islander community. Do they have to make appointments? Is it by appointment only? And any other information with that?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. So for the testing, essentially it's a partnership with King County Public Health. It's called SCAN, and it's an in-home testing kit. And the best way to do this is that if there are members who want to access the services, they can email me and I will route the referral process to my colleagues who are actually handling it. So it's by appointments only at this time. And on certain days, we may have open clinics, but the best way is to email me and I can put anyone who have the referral with the right contacts.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. That was a wonderful question. Do we have any other questions for Victor? Okay, seeing none and hearing none, I think I'm going to thank you, Victor, for your participation and for giving us this vital information.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take good care.
You too. I want to go back to Scott Michael. We had some technical issues with him. Esprit, can we go back to his slides as well? Scott, are you on the lines now?
I am back on the line.
Hi.
Wonderful.
Thank you
I'm not going to.
dealing with us with those technical issues. Yeah, let us know which slides you want, or if you want to just close up, or whatever you would like to do.
Yeah, we can. I think I was on that one when I last talked. When I think I lost you. And I think I left off by saying that the vast majority of folks do not have issues that prevent them from getting their claims paid in a timely fashion. And the average time of resolving those issues that do occur is now at 4 weeks, which before the pandemic started, it was at about 3 weeks to resolve these issues. So we're not quite where we want to be, but we're pretty close. So the bottom line is that if you are feeling discouraged about applying for benefits because you feel it's going to be too long or take a while to get those benefits, for the vast majority of folks, they are receiving their benefits with no issues, and they're receiving their benefits within a week or two. All right. Next slide, please. So the most interesting developments that have been occurring with unemployment benefits have been occurring on the federal level. Many of you have heard about the Federal CARES Act, which provided new types of benefits for state unemployment agencies to give to unemployed individuals. The first one is we call it the Federal Pandemic Unemployment Compensation, or FPUC. This was the bonus $600 that was added onto weekly benefit checks starting back in April. Because this was a federal law and it's funded with federal money, we were required to end those payments. The last week that we could pay those benefits was for the week ending July 25th, 2020. And so that has ended. The congressional act that authorized that is done and over. And so, but other types of federal programs are still going. They had different expiration dates that were listed in the CARES Act. The biggest one is the pandemic unemployment assistance. This was the special federal benefits that are paid to individuals who are generally not eligible for a regular state unemployment claim. So this is self-employed individuals, independent contractors, folks who had less than 680 hours in their base year. Those folks had to apply for a state claim. They had to get denied, but then they had the option of applying for this federal pandemic unemployment assistance, or PUA. And that is still strong. That is still going. There are 39 weeks of benefits there. So for those of you who have applied for state claims, been denied, and haven't applied for these federal benefits yet, I encourage you. The only catch is that you have to be able to certify that the reason that you are not able to work is for one of the listed COVID-19 reasons. And then the other one that is still going is Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation, PEUC. I got the acronym wrong there. This is the extra 13 weeks that are added on to regular state unemployment claims. So once you qualified for a regular claim, you used up all of the weeks you were allowed. It's usually up to about 26 weeks. You can then add on and get an extra 13 weeks on top of that. And that was also federal money. That's still good until the end of the year, same as the federal claim. So again, please do not be discouraged to apply for these programs. The only thing that has stopped on the federal level is that extra $600. And then next slide. Okay, and then okay, I guess the update I sent this morning didn't make it into the final thing. The last thing I wanted to mention was that over the weekend, many of you have heard that President Trump signed a memorandum authorizing up to $300 to $400 to give to individuals who were to basically add on to state unemployment claims. He authorized about $44 billion worth of money, and it's for individuals who qualify for an unemployment claim and can certify that the reason they're unemployed is due to disruptions due to COVID-19. So the order was signed last Saturday. However, this is different than the federal FPUC, the $600 that just expired a couple weeks ago. First, it's less money. It's going to be up to $400, maybe only $300 to $400. Second, it's being run through FEMA and not through the state, not through the regular U.S. Department of Labor. And another thing is that it is time limited. It's only $44 billion. So if all state agencies throughout the nation apply for this and qualify, there's only about 5 to 6 weeks of benefits that are in there if everybody applies and qualifies. And then the other thing is that states have to come up with a quarter of this money. So so if there's $400 being authorized, states have to find the $100 to pay for that. And so Washington has to find this $100 somewhere. Also, the administrative funds also have to come from some sort of state funds that we need to find and identify. We cannot use federal funds that are authorized under the CARES Act to run this program. So it's very different. We are still investigating this, given the timeline, and we're even still waiting for additional guidance from FEMA in order to figure out the details of this program. So we are investigating it. We're looking at it. But a lot of the devils is going to be in the details. We may still we're still got to find state matching funds in order to administer this program. And then it's going to take time to stand up this program. And then there's also going to be the issue of the fact that it is a limited pot of money. So we're working at it. But I would not, just to set expectations, it's not going to be that much money, as much money. It's going to be for fewer weeks, and it's not going to happen overnight. It's probably still, even if we do apply and we still get it, it's probably about 2 to 3 weeks at least before we're able to turn this on. All right, thank you.
Scott, thank you so much for that. I know that there are a lot of people who are very interested in this information. At this time, I want to open it up for any questions for Scott, any unemployment questions. You can hit *6 on your phone to unmute. You can unmute your microphone or use the chat feature to type in questions. We do have one question from Karia Wong. For unemployment claims, will in-language update on unemployment benefits be available at ESD website? For instance, the new questions for PUA. Scott?
So is the language update, is this with regards to translations to other languages, such as Spanish or anything like that?
Actually, the question is for the new changes, the new questions that were in place for this week. We have a lot of phone calls because people were not aware of the changes, and also they don't understand the question. So a lot of them, they make mistake, and end up we have to file appeal to help them to clarify and fix the mistakes that they made. So I'm wondering if the official translation of those new questions will be available at ESD website. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, something that an update that we were required by the U.S. Department of Labor to make was with regards to these PUA questions. Before, we could just present a list of options of the 11 listed reasons that were there in the CARES Act. And you just basically said, do any of these apply to you? If you answered yes, then that was good. U.S. Department of Labor told us that we were doing it wrong. Instead, you actually had to identify which one of those applied to you. So that is why we had to do that update, is because U.S. Department of Labor told us to. So there, yeah, that's what we're that's what we're working on. I will let communications know that manages the website that there's some concerns there about those additional questions, and seeing if there's anything that they can do to help provide additional guidance.
Thank you, Scott. Are there any other questions related to his presentation, or any unemployment questions for Scott?
Hi, yes, this is Wang Wang. Hi, Scott. I was talking to a couple of nonprofits earlier this week, and they were talking about how their unemployment insurance rates are going up. And I'm just wondering if there's a way for nonprofits or small businesses that are already, feeling quite the hardship, and if there's a way for them to get those rates back down, or if there's some way to get waived, or whatever kind of resource or help might be there for them. Thank you.
Okay. So for nonprofits, there's two ways that they can finance their unemployment benefits. One is they can be what's called taxable, meaning that they just file quarterly tax reports and they pay taxes quarterly like many other for-profit businesses. Or there are a lot of nonprofits out there who are reimbursable, meaning that they just reimburse us dollar for dollar for all the benefits we pay out. A piece of good news that's also a piece of federal legislation that passed last month and was signed by the president at the beginning of this month, called the Protecting Nonprofits from Catastrophic Cash Flow Strain Act of 2020. Really awful bill title, but it's actually kind of fun, actually. But what that does in a nutshell is, for the reimbursable employers, it cuts their bill in half. So instead of having to reimburse us dollar for dollar, you only have to reimburse us 50 cents on the dollar. So we've delayed billing on that for a month so that we can get that in place. And so we'll be sending out updated bills this month that will only charge reimbursable nonprofits 50%. And then that also, same thing also applies to units of local government that are reimbursable. State agencies have been taking advantage of that as well. Another thing I recommend that small businesses and nonprofits do is explore our shared work program. Currently, under the CARES Act, all shared work benefits are federally funded, and they are not being charged to employers. And so what shared work is it allows, instead of laying somebody off completely, it allows you to reduce their hours from 10 to 50%. And so and then unemployment will come in and provide a corresponding fraction of their benefits. So if they're so instead of laying one person off completely, you take two people and you reduce them to half time. Both of your employees will end up with more money in their pockets than if they were unemployed generically, and your business is completely non-charged for those benefits, so those don't apply. We've done a few things to also through emergency rule to help small businesses who are non-charged. For example, they had to close because of a COVID-19 infection at their workplace. They can ask to have those benefits waived. If somebody had to go unemployed because they themselves picked up needed to be isolated or quarantined, we're also waiving off those benefit charges. And then we're also rolling out on our website in a couple weeks a program created by the state legislature at the tail end of the March legislative session that allows employers to apply for a portion of $25 million through the rules that we are in the process of adopting. If you had to close your business or reduce personnel due to one of the stay-home orders, or stay home, stay healthy, or you had to limit the size of gatherings. Those are great. You could potentially apply for those benefits and get a reduction in those amounts of benefits. So yeah, we're continuing to work with our congressional delegation, work with our state legislators, and working with the U.S. Department of Labor to try to find ways to reduce the tax rates that are going to be hitting small businesses and nonprofits as best as we can. We understand it's going to be rough, but we're working on it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions for for Scott? Okay. Thank you, Scott.
Sorry, this is Wang. I do have one more question, and this is more out of curiosity. Once you have the unemployment, are you still required to be doing the job searches? Because I know for some folks, there's really no other options or jobs available, so it's a little harder to do a job search. Is there still that requirement?
So that is a good question. The answer is no. Back in, I believe it was March, the governor did an emergency proclamation waiving the statutes that required a job search. Federal statutes were passed that gave us the flexibility to do that. Those federal statutes are still in effect, and that governor's emergency proclamation is still in effect. It's been renewed by the legislature every month since it was adopted. The next time it's going to be reviewed by the legislature is September 1st. We anticipate that they will allow that proclamation to extend and probably extend again. Of course, it's the legislature. We can't make any promises, but we are anticipating that it will be extended past the September 1st review date. So no job searches.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wang, for those questions. Doing a time check, we have about 2 minutes left. Scott, I want to thank you for your presentation. Esprit, if we can go to the Q&A portion, I'm going to open it up for general questions. Before I do, I just want to reiterate the file share situation again. I know we have a question on that. If you go up to the upper left corner and select the File tab, and then you can select Transfer, you will be able to download that document with all of the relevant links from the presentations today, links to web pages, email addresses for speakers, phone numbers, our survey at the end. And that's where you can find that document. You can also email us, and we can send that document and the PowerPoint presentation as well. I want to open it up for any Q&A portions right now. I want to mention we still have our speakers with ADS and with NMF on the line. If you have any questions you may have thought of, we also have someone from the Office of Housing in case anyone has any housing questions. You can open it up now. You can hit *6 to unmute your phones. You may use the chat feature to type in your questions. You can unmute your microphones if you're on a computer. I want to open it up quickly for about a minute or so for some Q&A. If anyone has any additional questions you want to ask us, feel free to do so at this time. I'm not seeing any in the chat feature. You can hit *6 to unmute your phone. Okay. We are right at 4 o'clock. And I want to thank all of today's presenters for taking the time to share their valuable information with us. I would also like to thank our community members in particular who participated in this discussion. The Seattle Department of Neighborhoods will continue to host webinars every second and fourth Fridays from 2:30 to 4 p.m. to keep our local community informed. Our next webinar will be on August 28th. To help us improve these webinars, on that document, please, there is a link to a survey that you may take to give us your feedback, let us know your ideas or your questions for how we can improve these webinars. You can email us at COVID-19 communitywebinars@seattle.gov or call 206-684-0464 for the presentations, the document, any questions you have, any questions you might want to see in the future. The webpage, the email address and the phone number are good resources. I want to thank everyone for your time. I'm going to just leave it one more time. Any other questions? Mike D, I see your questions, and I'm going to take those for the future presentation webinars. We will be getting back to you on those. If there are any other questions related to our speakers or presentations you heard today, going once, going twice. Okay, that concludes our webinar. Thank you everyone for joining us. Stay healthy, stay safe. Have a very good weekend.